Welcome back to Workplace Revamp, the podcast where we talk about what actually helps people function better at work and in life when things feel overwhelming or stuck. Today's conversation is a powerful one. I'm joined by Darren Jewel. Darren is a neuro resilience coach, speaker, and someone who has lived the work he teaches in a very real way. He discovered in adulthood that one-third of his brain had been non-functional since childhood. And instead of accepting that as the end of the story, he rebuilt function through neuroplasticity and daily practices. What I love about Darren's work is how practical and hopeful it is. His message is simple and grounding. You're not broken. Your pattern and patterns can be updated. This conversation is for anyone dealing with stress, burnout, change, or the quiet fear of this is just how it's going to be now. Darren, welcome to Workplace Revamp.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me.
I'm so excited to have you. Darren and I have been going back and forth on LinkedIn, building our relationship, and I just love your stories on neuroplasticity. And, I've read so many things, but before we get into it, can you tell everyone your story? That's so important.
Okay, so I was born in 1969, and back then, technology was nowhere near as advanced as what it is now. We didn't have MRI scanners. We did have them. I think they came out. I think they was like 1977 or 78. So at the age of 15 months old in 1970, uh, my family lived on a some flats, and there was ground floor and then two floors above, two flats above, and there was a spiral staircase out the back door. And my mum turned her back. We just had lunch. She turned her back. She was washing up dishes, and I crawled, toddled out the back door, up the spiral staircase, and the first thing she knew was when she heard a thud as I'd fallen and landed on my head. Back then, bars were not cot width, and now they are. So we don't. Yeah. So I landed on my head, was rushed into hospital, was put into a coma.
Oh
In
my
a
God.
coma for about 3 weeks. My head is supposed to have swelled on the left side, swelled to over twice its size. Uh, there was they was the specialist saying if he survives, he's not going to have a good life. He's not going to do very good at school. He won't have a good job. Basically, he's going to really struggle. I went to a normal school, and I will say this many times, but yeah, I went to a normal school, and I hate the word normal because I didn't feel like I was. I struggled at school, and I surprised everybody. I did get a weekend job in a restaurant while I was at work when I was 15, and I decided that I was going to go to catering college when I left school. And people don't like it's both physically and mentally challenging being a chef. I managed to work as a chef for like 16 years, and then I suddenly started falling over. As my body had been growing, uh, I started getting pains in my back and in my neck, and I started to fall over. So I I was going to go into my manager's office, and resign because I didn't want to fall over carrying a pot of boiling water and hurt somebody. But he said to me, don't resign. We go front of house, sit on a till. Yeah, you'll go mad doing nothing. So I carried on working. But I went to my GP and he sent me for my very first MRI scan. And I found out that I'd got pressure on my spine in two places. In my lower back, that's what was making me fall over. In my neck, which was giving me excruciating pain in my neck, trapped nerves and stuff. And the most shocking thing was a third of my brain was not functioning. I knew that I'd got brain damage, but a third was just too much. Yeah.
How did you deal with that news? What were your emotions?
Well, I must have had like shock on my face, and the neurologist that I was seeing, who told me the results, he said, "Don't worry about it." He said, "You've had it for 30 years. It's been like this since the accident, and you've coped pretty well." I'd also, so I was by this time, I was a qualified chef. I retrained as a plumber when I was 26, but I just did work for people I knew, and I didn't, and I just set up a small business doing jobs for local people. That was it, and I carried on staying working in catering. So I qualified in two subjects, and but in the back of my mind, even though he said, "Don't worry about it, you've coped pretty well for all this time," I thought that when you get to like 40s, in your 40s and 50s, there was just like people might have a minor stroke. And if I had a really minor stroke and it damaged another part of my brain, what could the outcome be? So I was concerned, but I did try not to worry too much. And yeah, and I had like routine MRI scans after that.
So, how did you begin to rebuild your brain after that?
But talking to friends that I've known for a long time, they've always said that I've been really motivated in learning, and also um, in my time as a chef, I even got to the level of like a kitchen supervisor. So I had responsibility, and uh, the specialist was saying that I was going to do nothing. So I was a kitchen supervisor. If there was no manager available to do a shift, I would step up to run the whole restaurant. So I'd be in charge of the floor staff, the kitchen staff, go and do the cashing up. So I was achieving quite a lot. And um, I, uh, I in so over the years, I had routine MRI scans which showed there was no change. And I thought as you get older, your brain either stays the same or degenerates. That's just what I thought. And in 2019, so I probably had about 10 MRI scans over 20 years, from like 2021 to 2018-ish. That probably had about 10 scans, and there was no change. And I enrolled on a neuropsychology course because and it was a home study course. So it's because I was interested in how the brain worked, because I've done quite a lot. And I also, because of the falling over, I then retrained as a website designer, just in case I ended up in a wheelchair because of the falling over. So I enrolled on this neuropsychology course, and when it touched on this thing called neuroplasticity, if people don't know what that is, you hear a lot of people say rewire the brain. Now that's what neuroplasticity is the scientific word, and it's building new pathways in your brain. And when it got to that section of the course, I thought to myself, my brain injury, my brain is 51 years old. It's been damaged for half a century. There's no way I'm going to be able to rewire my brain. My brain is too far, like too much damage, and it's too old. So I put the course to one side and I enrolled on more courses. And it intensified, the courses intensified in March, from March 2020, because of the global lockdown. There was nothing else to do, and I can't stand sitting around doing nothing. So I just did course after course, and some courses were like 4 hours, some were 50 hours, and I can complete a 50-hour course in a week because I wasn't working. And in from March 2020 to July 2021, I had completed about 50 plus courses online.
Wow, that's
On
amazing.
different subjects. So I knew that I knew that the left side of my brain was damaged. I didn't know about what side of at the time. I didn't know what side of the brain did what. But I knew that I was creative. Being a chef, being a plumber, website designer, they're all creative. And then I realized, then I found out that the right side of the brain is creative, the left side is logical. And after the start of the lockdown, I started enrolling on some computer programming courses, which was triggering something in the logical side of my brain. And yeah, and it was building pathways which I had no idea that it was doing.
So after you did that,
Yeah.
did you go back to get an MRI to see how that impacted your brain?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I mentioned July 2021, because I had to go for a routine MRI scan, and I felt like there was no pressure. I've had so many of them. I just went there and was just thinking it was going to be the same story. My brain hasn't changed. I felt a lot different. I felt at the time, maybe not a lot, but I felt like there was something changing. I was feeling a little bit more confident, and I was talking a little bit better. There was a lot of pauses before. I would have to think of the words. So halfway through a sentence, I'd have to stop. And even if I was out with friends, I would sometimes sit and not say very much if we're out for a meal, because I felt like my input to the conversation wasn't important. So I went for this MRI scan, and then a few weeks later, now you haven't mentioned that I'm in the UK, so I got a letter in the post saying I'd got to go to the National Hospital for Neurology and Neurosurgery in London to see a neurosurgeon. I have never been to that hospital before. I have never seen a neurosurgeon, and I was scared. Even though I felt
Sure.
pretty good, I felt scared because I've never been there, and the thought of seeing a neurosurgeon just made me think they want to do an operation. And yeah, I had to get my dad to come with me just in case it was bad news and I needed support coming home. So I go for the MRI, go for this appointment, and the neurosurgeon puts up this MRI scan, and I look at it, and I go, and like I've said, I hate the word normal. I said that is not my MRI scan. And he said, it is. And I went, it's not mine. That MRI scan is normal. And I said, I hate that word normal, but that brain is normal. There's nothing wrong with it. And
Wow.
and I went, and mine, a third of my brain doesn't work. And he did zoom in. He zoomed in, and there was a tiny little spot that was still not active. It was tiny. Yeah. Compared to a third of my brain, this was smaller, like your smallest coin in in America. Ours is like a 1 penny. He said that in he said it is yours, and in fact, I've been a neurosurgeon for 35 years, and I have only seen this at this scale 3 times in my whole of my career. That
It's
you have
amazing.
actually rewired your brain, and you, by the sound of it, you have all the activity you've been, the intense learning your brain has been doing. You've stimulated blood vessels in your brain, which has pumped blood to the non-functioning part. Now, this is how much things have changed, because back in 2001, the neurologist said it was dead. That part of my brain was dead. Now they say non-functioning, and I had stimulated blood vessels in my brain to pump blood to the non-functioning part and made it function.
That's
Um,
amazing.
who thinks that is possible? I didn't.
Wow.
I didn't.
No. And so this is big, right? This is so big, Darren, that you were able to rewire your brain. But it's like you did it without realizing it.
Yep. And I've said, so I'd been seeing neurologists from 2001 until 2020. Not one person at the hospital said this was possible. No one had ever said uh, you can rewire your brain. And so I'd actually done it um, all on my own with
That's
no support, which is even uh, more amazing, really, when you think about it.
so
So,
now you help other people rewire their brain.
yeah, give them like hope and give them tips to do. For the first 6 months after I I got told this news, so which was December 2021. It was about, yeah, it was July, it was June time, and I'd been waking up for 6 months. I've been waking up in the morning thinking, was that a dream? Have I been dreaming this for the past 6 months? And then I just thought to myself, do you know what? If no neurologist had told me this was possible, I hadn't heard people talking about this, talking about neuroplasticity, and I just felt like that unless people like me, that like you hear people talking, there are people talking about neuroplasticity, but they're talking about things that they've actually read. And I just felt like if I go and start talking about it, I'm talking about it from personal experience. I contacted my old school, which I'd left in 1985. I wanted to go in and talk to the kids. When I was at school, I'm sure we had like assemblies with the whole school, but now they do each year. So I went in and done 4 assemblies. The only year that I didn't talk to were the final year because they were doing their exams. And my goal at the time was, on my first talk, was to inspire one kid in the whole school to think a little bit more positive about the future. And that's how I felt on the first one. I was nervous. I thought, if I start my talk by saying a third of my brain is dead, and then go through the story and say now it's alive, it might impact them a little bit better. And they had, and I thought, when I first started talking, that somebody might laugh. I don't know what kids are like, and I just thought
Sure.
somebody might laugh. Somebody might laugh. So I was nervous, and they had amazing question and answers for me, and that spurred me on. And then I did another. Then I did another one. I did another assembly straight after that, and then I did two the following week. And it was, the first two were in like National Mental Health Week in the UK, so it was quite important. It would have been good to do the whole lot in that week, but then by the time I started the second week, I thought, no, I want to affect the person who was like me in when I was at school in each assembly, and I also wanted to affect the smartest person in the school in the assembly, because I said, if I can do this, if you work harder, you can achieve even more. And the person I was dealing with, I didn't realize when I was at school that, like, you have a year head, or in the UK we have a year head, and but then there's also a head of years. So she's a year head. She was a year head, but she was also in charge of making sure that if there was important things that had to be talked about in assemblies, she passed it down. So she was head of years. And I only saw her on the last assembly, and she said to me afterwards, she said, I've had feedback right the way through from the first assembly, and they said you were nervous, which was understandable, but
Sure.
but this assembly, your final one, you smashed it. And uh, please, just because this was your old school, do not stop here. You need to you need to go to other schools and uh, and tell them this story, and because it can help a lot of people. So I contacted my local council, and then I thought, no, that's not thinking big enough. So I contacted the mayor of London, because I'm like I'm in a suburb of London. Contacted the mayor of London, and I'm on some register so that I can go in and talk to schools. But the schools have to have the budget to do it. But most of the time, I'll say I'll go in and just if you pay my expenses, I'll go and do it.
So can you
And
tell us a little bit about how did you tell them, how can they start
how can they
rewiring?
start? Yeah. So I I was doing a lot. I was doing a lot of courses now. I just probably spent quite a lot of money actually doing it. But to start, like, if you like, as I was a chef, if you like cooking, every now and then cook something that you've never cooked before. Yeah. You've got food in the fridge, so it's not called in the fridge and in the cupboard and that, and so you're not spending any money apart from what that you usually spend, and just cook something completely different, because is and I was just thinking of cooking as being creative, but it's actually using both hemispheres of the brain, because you're following a recipe. So you're logically thinking how to do it. And then what I say to people is, look at the recipe book, get your ingredients, look at the instructions, close the book, and then cook the meal. If the meal comes out great, then fantastic. But even if it doesn't come out great, you've still started to build a new neuro pathway. And I say every single day there is something new to learn.
There is. Oh my
Yeah,
God. There's
every
so many
single
things.
every single day there's something to learn. I went on a business. I went on a business seminar. 3 days. I ended up going for a week. Just and I was going with a friend, actually my piano teacher, who I met on this journey because playing a musical instrument uses both hemispheres of the brain as well, and there's not that many things that actually do that.
So, how about if we talk a little bit? I know in your LinkedIn post, you give some strategies and
Yeah,
frameworks on
yeah.
how people can make this change. And I think, like for me, I'm getting older. I'm in my 60s. You start to hear a lot about older people who lose their memory
Yeah.
and dementia, and we hear about Alzheimer's. And so it gets scary for people. And I just want to have a little bit of a framework that people can follow to take little steps each day to start rewiring their brain.
So it's like little things, like just to the brain likes novelty. That's why I said about the of cooking of food. If you want to like try to get your brain to do different things, so even like cleaning your teeth with your with your non-dominant hand, um, and playing like like doing some memory games. It's like I started to like try writing with my non-dominant hand because that even can build a new neuro pathway. So it's giving your brain something completely different to do. So yeah, I was saying I met this lady for the first time, even though she was a friend on uh, Instagram, and I wanted a nice icebreaker, and she was from the country that she originates from is Romania. So I learned to speak like a few words, which were just "Hello, Anna, how are you?" in Romanian. So when I met her at the airport, her first thing was she jumped up to give me and my piano teacher a hug. And then when she let go of me, I put my hands up like that. And she's like looking at me thinking, what's the matter with this guy? And I then said these these like few words. Hello, Anna. How are you in Romanian? And the following day, this was before the actual seminar. Me and her were going to go to the beach, and she said to me, "Darren, I knew you were a nice guy, but to do that was really special." And then she like wrote an article about me that's actually appeared in an American magazine. So Anna was on the front cover as well, the International Business Weekly, which is a online magazine, and that came out just before Christmas of 2024. So there's a bit about me on there as well. So
Oh,
yeah, so it's finding uh, different things to do. So just like going out and taking a different, going for a walk and doing a walk that you've never done before, and noticing what is things that are different. It all starts building new neural pathways in your brain. So it's just simple things, and it's doing them repetitively. So yeah, like learning to write with your non-dominant hand. I was quite surprised. The, it was really terrible years ago, and when I tried it for the first time, I was writing lists of just rubbish sometimes, like A to Z art, singers, animals, countries, and things like that. And I was getting it was after 30 days, I'd actually started to write like pretty good with it. So it's just finding different things to do.
That's
And
amazing. Oh, so how can this apply to leaders or teams in the workplace that are in stressful environments? Can they learn how to control their brain from reacting or not getting stressed, do you think?
I think so. Yeah, it just takes practice. I really suffered from stress. uh, I didn't really notice it. I just how I was. But people have said to me who I've known for many years that I was really stressful when I was just like a kitchen supervisor. But now I like just like try not to let things stress me out anymore. And and it's quite hard when you've got a parent who's got vascular dementia, but
Oh, sorry.
yeah, so it's possible. That's why I'm more focused as well, because if I can do this, then if people like do try to learn something every now and then, something new, it could help it could help prevent you getting dementia. It could help or help slow it down. If you're gonna if it's in your on your cards that you're gonna get it, but with like some support, it can help slow it down or prevent it. It's just a lot of there's quite a lot of information that I can give, and anyone who wanted to connect with me, I can then help them with strategies, because you've
That's
seen some of my
great.
strategies.
And you're on LinkedIn.
I'm
And
on link.
do you have a website where people can find you or just direct to LinkedIn?
Uh, yeah, I have got a website, but there's an issue with the contact. The messages are not getting through. So if you're on LinkedIn, you can contact me through there, or I'm on Facebook, and my website is darrenjewel.com.
Okay, that's
Um,
great.
yeah, and yeah, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. I am on Instagram as well, and email darrenscottjewel.co.uk, hotmail.co.uk.
Great. Well, Darren, just one last question
Yeah,
for someone listening right now who feels overwhelmed or stuck. What's one small thing they could start today to support their brain?
one small thing, they're feeling stuck.
Yes.
Um,
What's one little thing they could do today to just,
Start doing something small, something tiny, and it doesn't have to be something massive. It's small, repetitive actions that will help strengthen the brain.
that's,
So,
that's
yeah,
awesome. Darren, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your story. You
yeah.
are very inspirational. And for anyone listening, we will include links to Darren's website and LinkedIn so you can explore more of his work. And as always, if this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it today. Change doesn't have to be dramatic to be meaningful. Sometimes it starts with one small step. Have a great day. Thank you, Darren.